for everyone here. My name is Matt Hargraves. I will be the acting commission secretary today. And the following is the September 8th, 2022, 703rd Arizona Racing Commission meeting taking place, Google Meets. And I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge.
Present.
Commissioner Contreras.
Here.
Commissioner York.
Present.
And Commissioner Olson. Thank you. We have a quorum. The time is 10:01 and the floor is yours, Chair Coolidge.
Thank you, sir. I'll go ahead and call to order. Excuse me, am I on mute? No, I'm not. We'll call to order the 703rd Arizona Racing Commission meeting of September 8th, 2022. Jumping right into the action items. We'll go to B1, the election of the Racing Commission Vice Chair for 2022. Always happy to jump into an executive session if there are any questions from my fellow commissioners, and happy to open it up for discussion or any nominations at this point. Otherwise, I'm happy with the nomination myself.
Commissioner Coolidge, go ahead and make your nomination, please. I think you're muted. Huh. All right.
Looks like Chair Coolidge had to leave the meeting. We no longer have a quorum, so no business will be taking place until Commissioner Coolidge joins back.
Can you guys hear me?
There you are.
Sorry
Yep.
about that. So yeah, I'll open it up to the floor for any nominations, or I'm happy to make one on my own.
Yes, Commissioner Coolidge or Chair Coolidge, why don't you go ahead and make your nomination?
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Olson.
I would second that nomination.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner French Contreras. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge.
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras.
Yes.
Commissioner York.
Yes.
And Commissioner Olson. Thank you. That motion passes. The Vice Chairman motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson, and the rest of the crew. We'll move to action items B2, request for Arizona Downs off-track betting facility at Fuzzy's Sports Grill. That'd be 8378 West Thunderbird Road. I can open it up. Actually, before I do, Mr. Duncan, you have all the requisite documents and all the prior approvals. Looks like we do here.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, everything has been received, supplied to all of you and reviewed. I did do a pre-inspection of my own on Labor Day Monday. Didn't talk to the owner. They still have no tote machines or TVs installed. It's still all in the planning stages. They are going to be doing construction in the next week or two with the approval. And the division would recommend that Commission approves contingent upon completing an inspection by the department, which I do have another inspector set up to do that inspection when all the construction is done.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Duncan, you might want to log out and log back in. Sounds like you're having some issues, at least on my end.
Same here.
Additionally, I know I have some people who have signed up to speak on this. Before I have them speak, is there any of my fellow commissioners that have any questions for the department?
I'll hold my questions till after they speak.
Mr. Ambornini, why don't we give you 3 minutes to give your overview? And we did receive your documents prior to the meeting as well.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Brian Imbornoni. I represent TP Racing, doing business as Turf Paradise. TP Racing objects to this OTB request because it violates the 60-mile rule under the IHA. Fuzzy Sports Grill is located approximately 10 miles from the Turf Paradise racetrack. This requires approval to operate when TP Racing is conducting a live meet. We are relying on Section 3004B of the IHA. Section 3004 regulates interstate off-track wagering. Subsection A requires the approvals from the Horsemen's Group, Horseracing Commission, and Off-Track Racing Commission that come up at every meeting. Subsection B provides that in addition to these requirements, any off-track betting office must obtain the approval of all currently operating tracks within 60 miles of the OTB. This statute was enacted to protect live racing, which is critical to the industry. Obviously, without live racing, there is no content to stream to the OTBs. The federal law strikes a balance between the financial interests of live racetracks and OTB facilities. It prevents an OTB from operating without approval of, quote, currently operating, unquote, tracks within a 60-mile radius. This means that without approval from the live racetrack, an OTB within a 60-mile radius cannot accept interstate off-track wagers on live race days. And this is based on the plain language of the statute. TP Racing requests the commission to enforce Section 3004B. We submit that this is required by ARS 5112B, which states that all simulcasts of horse or harness races, shall comply with the Interstate Horse Racing Act of 1978. So under state law, enforcement of the IHA is not optional. We submit that the OTB request for Fuzzy's Sports Bar should be denied unless they obtain the requisite approval from TP Racing or agree not to accept interstate off-track wagers on days that TP Racing is conducting a live meet. This is required by the express language of the federal statutes. If I may, I'd like to save the rest of my time for a short rebuttal if necessary. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Sims, I have you signed up to speak as well. Do you have anything to add to that? Okay. Mr. Billingsley or Mr. Hoffert?
Yeah, this is Mr. Billingsley.
Go ahead, sir. We'll give you 3 minutes.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer any questions with regard to the build out, proximity to any other OTBs, yeah, anything of that nature that you might have. I think you guys have addressed the 60-mile rule 3 times previously, and you're well versed in that. So if there's any issues pertaining to the OTB or the facility, I'll be happy to answer any of those.
Mr. Johnson, looks like you have your hand raised. Thank you, Mr. Billingsley.
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for the time. I just want to remind everybody, we've been putting off looking for new OTBs because we were, told by the Racing Commission that there would be no new OTBs approved. There are areas of the landscape in Arizona that could use new OTBs. I will tell you, this is not one of them. Fuzzy's used to be a Turf Paradise OTB under ownership of a company called Legends Sports Bar. It was too close in relationship to Charlie's. All it did was cannibalize the handle. We tried to keep it open. We did everything to try to make it successful, but all it did was impact handle at Charlie's. And it's less than 3.5 miles from Charlie's to Fuzzy's, and it's a straight shot right down the 101. You can get from Fuzzy's to Charlie's in less than 5 minutes. So I just want to make sure we're all aware of that, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And just for clarification to my fellow commissioners, the commission did not say that no OTBs would be approved. That was actually a comment that I had made publicly. Looks like I have a couple more hands raised, and forgive me if I missed some of them. Mr. Gore, why don't I give you 3 minutes? And can you identify who you're speaking on behalf of, please?
I'm speaking on behalf of myself, just to give the commission a little information. Several years ago, I think Chairman Coolidge, you were on the commission along with Commissioner McClintock and Lawless and myself. And this issue came up, and basically Arizona Downs and Turf were told, to work this out. And they went outside in the hallway and apparently came up with some agreement, because the commission at that time had told them, if you guys don't come up with some agreement, the commission will then take action, and you're not going to like the action we took. And ever since then, the commission has never used the 60-mile rule. And again, it's embarrassing that, I'm guessing Turf thinks, hey, we got 2 new commissioners, we can snooker them into following this. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Author, I'll give you 3 minutes as well if you have new items to bring to the commission.
I guess that's the question. Do I have anything new to bring to the commission? Obviously, the commission has heard this many times. The 60-mile track under the federal cases has no standing to object to whether or not they're 60 miles away from the closest OTB. It's entirely up to the commission to whether or not they even want to consider that 60-mile rule, and that's what the cases say. The other irony about this is that the purpose of the statute allegedly is to protect live racing, the live meet, the live attendance. And Turf Paradise has done everything they can to scuttle their live attendance by not having food, not having any amenities at the track, and their live attendance, according to the folks that have been out there, is negligible. So our OTBs are not pulling any people away from the Turf Paradise live meet. There's also there's a brand new statute, 5-118, that mentions the 60-mile rule in 5-118. Where I'm trying to let's see here. A permittee is authorized to conduct live racing in the county of a population 700,000 persons or more, but less than 1,000,005. All right, that's a 1,000,005 one. But in any event, less than 500,000. We've been through it all a million times. Mr. Bernoni hasn't been here. The new commissioners have an opportunity to go through it, and we ask that you approve our OTB.
This is Jerry Sims. Can you hear me? This is Jerry Sims.
Yes, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Oh, I won't need 3 minutes. I want to respond that number one, our new contract with the Horsemen's Group requires us to have food and beverage throughout the facility and the backside. We closed it during COVID, and we're reopening it now. It'll all be open. I had told, because Chairman, you had said that we should first get resolved on the Monarch issue before we open any more OTBs. We have been abiding by that. We were told by the commission to either resolve it with Arizona Downs or go to court or arbitration. They didn't want arbitration. We filed a lawsuit in court. I don't really understand why we were forced to do that, but we did. And I think it would be wrong that we've been sitting on hold, not opening any more OTBs because of your statement, Mr. Chairman. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the time.
Mr. Billingsley, do you have something else you need to add, sir?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the facility is 3¼ miles from Charlie's. The previous parlor closed down, went out of business. So I don't know how accurate the cannibalization issue is. And I seem to remember you all approving an OTB request for third base in Chandler a few meetings ago. So I do think they've made a request in the time period to grow their network.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Mr. Author.
Thank you, Chairman. It's Tom Author. I just want to read from you this statute 5118B that says, in short, in a county with a population of 200,000 persons or more, that's Yavapai County, but less than 500,000 persons, or in a county with a population of more than 3 million persons, without the prior written consent of the racetrack enclosure. Now, that was a new rule or legislation that was put in, updated the revised sections from the 55th legislature. So it has been addressed by the legislature. And they're saying if a county the size of Yavapai, or for that matter, the county the size of Maricopa, does not need the prior written consent of the racetrack enclosure. So I mean, this keeps coming up, but somewhere along the way, the legislature looked at it and addressed it.
Thank you, sir.
You're
Any
welcome.
other questions from the commissioners before we continue the circle?
I do. Mr. Arthur, did you as a courtesy contact Turf Paradise or TP Racing and ask them their thoughts on you working with Fuzzies since they are within that 60 miles?
All of ours are within 60 miles.
That isn't my question. That isn't my question. Did you contact TP Racing as a courtesy to ask them?
No.
Okay.
No.
Mr. Sims or Mr. Imbernoni, would you be willing to agree to this if they had contacted you, or if they contact you, would you work with them to make this happen?
I
This
believe.
is Jerry Sims.
Go ahead, Jerry.
You go ahead, Brian.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, we would not approve them. They're too close to ours. And the federal law is the one that talks and is out. And I think the information was sent to the commissioners. And it's very clear. But to answer your direct question, no, because it's just, it's too close to our OTBs. You know, we go to the expense of running a meet that we lose money on, but we run it for the industry, and the track owes me $7 million because I have lent it money as we keep going, and we'll continue to do that. But we need not to have our business siphoned off by OTBs, and we go by that federal law. So, and if anybody in the legislature did anything, they sure never contacted me. They didn't contact our lobbyist. So we're not aware of any of that, but the direct answer is no.
Thank you.
Chair Coolidge, if there are no other comments in the queue, I'd like to move to executive session, please.
May I reply briefly? This is Brian Imbernoni. May I reply briefly?
We don't have a second, so yes, go ahead, sir. Briefly.
We are aware that the commission has not been enforcing section 3004B for whatever political or other reasons. This started with the September 13, 2018 commission meeting. The commission can go back and review the minutes and review a recording of that meeting. There was no agreement between the parties. This was a decision made on a recommendation by Greg Stiles and a motion by Rory Goray that is reflected clearly in the record that is available online. With respect, the commission's policy to ignore 3004B violates federal law. It violates state law 5112B, which requires the commission to comply with the IHA. And it's true, with new commissioners and new council, we request the commission to take a fresh look at this and to enforce the federal law. And we don't believe that observance of the federal statutory law is optional. And the federal case law also supports enforcement of this. The most relevant federal case is the Sterling Suffolk case from the First Circuit. It provides that failure to obtain approval is flouting federal law, and that this is a proper matter for consideration by a racing commission charged with enforcing racing statutes. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Commissioner York has a motion on the floor. I will second the motion to move to executive session.
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner York and a second by Chair Coolidge to move into executive session. I will call the roll. Commissioner York,
Yes.
Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson. Thank you. The time is 10:21 and we will enter into executive session. Chair Coolidge, I believe we have a quorum. Would you like me to call the roll?
Yes, please.
Great. The time is 10:28, and I will call the roll for resumption of regular session. Commissioner French-Contreras,
Here.
Commissioner York,
Present.
and Chair Coolidge,
Present.
and Commissioner Olson. Thank you. The time is 10:28. We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Author, I see your hand raised. If you have something new to add. Mr. Gorey, why don't you take a minute?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up Turf's legal representations trying to pull a little trickeration, I believe. Yes, I did make the motion in 2018, and that's because I could visually see the nods of, yes, there was an agreement made in the hallway. So, you know, again, I would encourage the commissioners to go back and listen to all the previous meetings about these issues. Also, I would like to address that. What happened to Tucson Greyhound Park's OTBs? I believe somebody else is operating them, and as far as I know, the commission has yet to approve those, and would like to know who approved those and why they've been operating for almost 3 months with no commission approval. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open it up to the floor. But before I do that, I'll go ahead and just say the same thing I've said before, and I'm going to continue to say it. It feels like the racetracks are more interested in going back and forth to try to shut each other's OTBs down than actually putting together solid and safe race meets. So until I feel like we can get on a better page, I'm going to continue to advocate against additional and more OTBs moving forward. So I will not be making a motion at this point.
Commissioner Coolidge, I need to ask, when would be the earliest that these OTBs would open if Fuzzies was approved? What's the timeline?
Is there a representative from Fuzzies directly on the line?
Yeah, this is Charlie Billingsley from Arizona Downs.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I would expect we would open 21 to 30 days from approval.
Okay. Commissioner Coolidge, let me just say, I'm going to make a motion, but let me just say that in my short time that I've been involved with this commission, the one thing that's very obvious to me is these two tracks need to work together. They're spending more time, more money, and more effort fighting each other and actually not doing any benefit to the industry. And it'd be really nice if you guys start going to the table and actually speaking to each other, trying to work out some of these things before it even comes to us. With that, I'm going to make a motion at this point that we table the decision to approve the OTB for Fuzzies pending additional legal advice.
Second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner French-Contreras and a second by Commissioner York. I will call the roll. Commissioner French-Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
and Chair Coolidge.
No.
Thank you. That motion passes.
Thank you. We'll move to B3, the simulcast agreement pursuant to ARS 5-112U for Arizona Downs, Turfway Park, Fairgrounds, and Keeneland. Mr. Duncan, give any updates you have on that side or anything that might not be in the packet we've been provided.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Everything has been supplied, reviewed. All is in order. The division would recommend that 5112U contracts be approved for item B3A, Turfway, Fairgrounds, and Breeders' Cup at Keeneland.
Everything looks in order on my end. Any comments from my commissioners?
Nothing.
No.
I'll go ahead and move that we approve the simulcast agreements pursuant to ARS 5-112U for Arizona Downs, Turfway Park, Fairgrounds, and Keeneland.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner French Contreras. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
and Commissioner York.
Yes.
Thank you. Items B3A 1 through 3 are approved. Thank you.
Jump down to 3B for Turf Paradise, Aqueduct, Keeneland, Zia Park, Mahoning Valley, Delta Downs, and Evangeline Downs. Mr. Duncan, any updates or additional information that's not in our packets?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Again, here for Turf Paradise, all contracts have been supplied, reviewed. All is in order. Division would recommend that the 5112U contracts be approved for items B3B 1 through 6.
And again, everything looks in order. So thank you to both tracks for having everything together on this. Any comments from my commissioners?
No.
No.
Go ahead and move that we approve 3B Turf Paradises 1 through 6 pursuant to ARS 5-112U.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner French Contreras. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
and Commissioner York.
Yes.
Thank you. Items B3, B1 through 6 are approved.
Sorry, I was looking through my comments here. Dropping down to item 4, simulcast horse racing import signals pursuant to IHA section 3004A3. Mr. Billingsley, do you have anything to add to this since you're signed up for it?
I do not.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Duncan, with the previous approvals paired with anything else that's not in our packets, do you have anything to add to this?
Mr. Chairman, there are no changes. Items 1 through 3 are still missing the host horseman and the AZ HPPA approval documents. As always, the division would make sure to collect all documents for those items before we give them permission to operate their signal. With that, the division would recommend that items 1 through 3 be conditionally approved pending the rest of the documents being turned in by the permittee.
Yes, sir. We have some time to chase these down and likely be able to do that shortly. Any comments from my commissioners on it?
No.
No.
I'll move that we conditionally approve Arizona Downs, Turfway Park, Fairgrounds, and Keeneland, provided the department receive all the prerequisite documents, and leave it to the department to approve with this prior approval so that they don't see any delay.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner York. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
and Commissioner French Contreras.
Yes.
Thank you. Items B4A 1 through 3 are conditionally approved.
Thank you. We'll drop down to Turf Paradise 1 through 6. Mr. Duncan, you want to give an update there?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Item 1 is complete for Turf Paradise for Aqueduct. Items 2 through 6 are still missing either the host commission or the host horseman documentation. With that, the division would recommend that item 1 for turf be approved. Items 2 through 6 be conditionally approved pending the rest of the documents being turned in by the permittee.
Thank you, sir. Still looks like we have a fair amount of time for these as well. Any comments or questions?
No.
I'll move that we approve Turf Paradise's Aqueduct import signal pursuant to the IHA section 3004A3.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner York. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
and Commissioner French Contreras.
Yes.
Thank you. Item B4B1 is approved.
I would also make a motion that we conditionally approve Keeneland, Zia Park, Mahoning Valley, Delta Downs, and Evangeline Downs, provided the department receive all the prerequisite approvals necessary, and leave it to the department to move that forward so the racetrack does not experience delay.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner York. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
Commissioner Frank Contreras.
Yes.
Thank you. Items B4, B2 through 6 are conditionally approved.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Gale, are you back with us? And can you give us a track safety report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair Coolidge, Commissioners. Just for an update on the 12-month average. Again, this counts thoroughbreds only. It's unchanged at 2.73 for all tracks in the state of Arizona. The national average again for 2021 was 1.39. The main contributors, Arizona Downs has had the same number of thoroughbred fatalities this meet as last meet too. Again, we had a tough season up at Rillito in the spring, and so that's the main contributing factor to the higher level. At the end of 2021, the statewide average was 1.96. Again, that was only with Turf Paradise and Arizona Downs running. And so Rillito did not run in 2021 due to COVID. There have been some factors up at Arizona Downs that have been a bit of a challenge this year. The monsoon rain has been frequent and quite a lot. The track maintenance crew has done an excellent job of maintaining the track surface. No racing days were lost in the month of August. And again, no thoroughbreds have been injured during either training or racing. We did have one quarter horse that suffered a fracture post-race, and we've had two quarter horses that have collapsed. I'm waiting the necropsies on those to find out exactly what the underlying cause was. There's only 2 weekends left in the Arizona Downs meet. The main concern with these next 2 weeks is watching horses that are entering frequently, perhaps every week. That's a risk factor for injury. And so myself and Dr. Butler will be taking special attention to those horses. They'll be highlighted in our morning exams, pre-race exams that we do. Again, the advantage of doing pre-race exams is getting to know the horses over the season and also take into consideration observations of how they are after the race. We have had the opportunity on a few occasions to go back and look at horses of concern, and certainly those that are not fit are put on the vets list. We do have a safety meeting tomorrow up at Arizona Downs with the stakeholders there. I do have it on Google Share, or Google Meets rather. If there are those who want to attend remotely, either contact the department or myself, and I can add you to the invitation. And again, we'll go over the entire meet thus far and review some of the findings that we have had on the horses that have expired. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you as always, ma'am. And appreciate you keeping an extra vigilant eye in the next couple of weeks just to make sure we're not maxing out any of these animals.
Dr. Gale, what's the status on getting any additional help on your end?
Job descriptions are being developed, and that hiring process will be taking place over the next couple of months, so that we should be have additional staff for the Turf Paradise meet.
Right.
Looking
Chair-
forward to that.
Chair Coolidge, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the safety meeting, and I assume that this is the safety meeting that had been happening in the past and then due to COVID wasn't happening quite as regularly. Is this something that I could attend
Yes, ma'am.
or another commissioner could attend? Okay.
You can. I would advise that you work with the department and Dr. Gale to ensure that we're not violating open meeting law. So let's make
Okay.
sure that now that we have 4 commissioners, I think 2 would be able to be on it, but let's make sure that we don't have anything with that. But I would encourage and appreciate you to attend.
Okay, great. Perfect.
I'll forward the invitation to the commission secretary and he can distribute it then to the commissioners.
Thank you, Dr. Gill.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll move to the budget report, Mr. LaForest. Director Casillas, any updates on your end? Okay. Mr. Guessman, good to see you, sir. Can you give us an update on the International Horse Racing Integrity Act, please?
Well, there's not a lot to, Chairman and Commissioners, Leroy Guessman, representing the National HPPA. There isn't a lot new to report. We did have our hearing on the 30th of August, as I mentioned in the last report we would be having. Turns out that both lawsuit number 1, which is the National HPPA against HISA, and lawsuit number 3, which is the Louisiana HPPA and several other HPPAs along with the Jockey Club. That lawsuit filed an appeal and a stay also. Turns out that both appeals and hearings were held the same day by the same 3 judges in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans. All arguments were presented. HISA mentioned that they are modifying some rules. The judges asked for those rules to be modified and then submitted to the judges for review. So we're waiting for HISA to modification of a couple of rules and then get to the judges. But probably all that has to happen before a ruling is made. Also, just to update you, the National HPPA is working very hard with our lobbyists in Washington. We are trying to get some emergency legislation still passed this year that will delay the start of HISA to January 1st of 2024 to allow the lawsuits to play out and to give HISA more time to get a little more organized and work some more on their rule modifications. That pretty much concludes my update. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Mr. Author, do you have a question for
Yeah,
Mr. Guessman?
A quick question. I understand that Arizona Downs is going to receive some kind of a citation for failing to comply with the claiming rule that HISA is promoting. Leroy, what do you know where we stand in? It seems like everybody likes that claiming rule, but we can't seem to enforce it because of a state rule. Do you know, are we attempting to change that?
Yes, I was informed. I had a meeting with Dr. Gale a couple days ago, and it is, the department is working. I guess somebody from the department might better answer you, but I do know the department for a couple of years now, we've been working on a new set of rules. Then we ran into COVID and they just never got submitted. But as I understand now, they've been submitted and the claiming rule is one of those rules. As far as HISA issuing a citation to Arizona Downs on that subject, I have not heard that, but it's possible that they could be, yes.
Dr. Gale, did you have something to add?
No, I was basically going to make the same comment that Leroy did.
Mr. Guessman, appreciate your input as always. We'll
You're welcome.
drop down to the Permittee Reports, American Greyhound Racing. Arizona Downs.
Good day, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. This is Mike Weiss on behalf of Arizona Downs. I do want to state that the season, I feel, has gone quite well. Despite the monsoon season, as Dr. Gale mentioned, I do have to give a shout out to our trackman, Vic Oliver, because we have had no fatalities from racing for over a month. Despite the kind of weather, we have lost a day and a half of racing. With that said, we have 4 more days of racing. This is the extension that was agreed upon with the HPBA. And I'd like to extend an invite for anybody here on this call to come out and visit and enjoy a live day and check out our beautiful facility. The handle has been up some. We've got a lot of exposure this year with TVG. They've been picking up more races, more so on Mondays. And the Daily Racing Forum has jumped in and been giving us banner time and giving out free past performances. And they're going to continue that for the next 4 days, the last 4 days. On closing day, Saturday, or on closing weekend of that Saturday, we have a horseshoe pitch promotion. We're going to draw 5 names, and it's $50,000 for the first ringer and $10,000 possible for the next 4. So we might be giving away $90,000 in that, which will be a lot of fun. And also, I'd like to thank Mr. Guessman and Chaplain Amy Shoemaker, who last Sunday scheduled a nice big end of the meet party. It had chili cook-off and beanbag toss and live music, and it started out as a party for the horsemen, and they were kind enough to include all of our employees and families, and they had a lot of fun, it seemed like. So just look forward to successful next 4 days and finishing up the meet. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You want to give an update for Rito as well?
I'll be happy to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Mike Weiss on behalf of Rito Park. Step by step, we're still moving forward with the county, with the horsemen, with the state and the University of Arizona. I met with Racetrack Industry Program Director he visited Arizona Downs a couple weeks ago and showed me that his introduction to racing program or class has over 20 students. Rito has submitted federal reimbursement documentation to the Racing Division of Arizona Department of Gaming. So preliminary, we are looking at 9 weekends. Still need to discuss this with the Department of Gaming and the HPBA, but probably 18 days starting February 4th. So we hope to have documentation submitted and ready for approval early this year so we can get a better head start than we did in the past. Thank you.
Appreciate it, sir. Drop in the middle of that to county fairs. Mr. Mayor, I see you off mute, so let's take Turf Paradise.
Thank you, Chairman Coolidge, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak. On August the 30th, an agreement was signed between the Arizona HBPA and Turf Paradise, and this was after several months of robust discussion. I'd like to thank Mr. Guessman, the Executive Director for the HBPA, Bob Hutton, the President of the HBPA, and track owner, turf owner, Jerry Sims. Everybody kept at it, and when everything came down to it, the good of racing was what was preserved, and we are racing. Everything we are doing now, and I'm looking at a list of 48 different projects that we have under tow. I'm not going to go through all of those, but a couple things to put out. All the restrooms in the stable area, the 14 restrooms, all of them have been refurbished. I think the horsemen are going to appreciate that. The turf course, you'd have to see it to believe it. Because of the rains we've had down here, the monsoon rains, it's the best of it's ever been. The rail on the turf course all around has been raised to the prescribed distance that's required by the Jockeys Guild. The pads, the safety pads, which we are going to be used on the main track, the dirt track, and that's to replace the ones which have just become weathered and dangerous over time. They've arrived and we've begun to install them. Everything is predicated on dates right now. The head of our head of concessions is in. He just got in from Ruidoso. So we are moving quickly with that. The horsemen arrive on September 20th, and that's to get the stalls ready. for the horses. The horses themselves come in on the 26th of September, and then training starts on October the 4th. So all these different projects, which I mentioned to you, they're all simultaneously happening at once, and everything is going to be ready for opening day on November the 4th. Chairman Coolidge, thank you for allowing me to speak. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Nothing on my end. Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll go to the optional industry stakeholder association updates, Arizona County Racing Association. Arizona Quarter Horse. Arizona Thoroughbred Breeders Association. HBPA.
Yes, Chairman and Commissioners, Leroy Guest with the Arizona HPPA. I want to first state that the meet up at Arizona Downs has been a great meet. As all meets, you have ups and downs, but the monsoon has caused a major problem. But the racetrack crew has done a fabulous job, as others have reported, but we can't give enough good things to say about Vic Oliver and his crew. They just worked very hard to keep that racetrack so we could race every day. I want to also say I know the two tracks don't always see eye to eye on things, but one thing that the two tracks have worked well with the horsemen on is the moving process. It is quite an undertaking for horsemen to move their stables, and both when turf closed last spring and with Arizona Downs opening, and now with Arizona Downs closing and turf opening, both tracks have worked very well with me in getting the horsemen moved in a timely fashion so they could pick up from one track and go to the next with no time where they would have to take their horses and find alternative places for them. And I appreciate that, and the horsemen do as well. So on a couple of things, the two tracks do work well together, and I appreciate it. I want to also mention, I'm hoping that in future meets, we can get the tracks, the department, and everybody on board to get things organized and done early. Getting the contract signed on August 30th with Mr. Sims is a big improvement over the last few years, and it gives us time and the horsemen time to make the proper decisions on where they want to go and race. I'm hoping that we can get Riedo up and going and approved prior to 1 week before the start of the meet, like last year. And I'm hoping again next year Arizona Downs can get approval and get started before 2 or 1 month ahead of the meet, like this year. It's just very, very helpful to the horsemen to know what their future is and where they're going, and can make plans. I want to say I've been in communication with Steve Woods, and I think I want to report to the commission as well as to the horsemen. We've got a big improvement on the racetrack, the dirt racetrack that caused all the problems last year. I think we'll see a big improvement in the condition of the track, and then the kindness that it has to the horses. I want to thank Mr. Sims for getting Mr. Woods involved and making this a safe and good racetrack for the horses. That's all I have, unless you have any other questions.
Appreciate the input and echo your sentiments regarding the racetracks and the HBPA working together to get these done. I know it must make your life easier, and it sure makes our lives easier. So appreciate it on all fronts.
Thank you.
Jockeys Guild. Move down to the commission reports. Do any commission members have anything that they'd like to move forward?
Yes, Chair Coolidge. I'd like to ask the department if at the next meeting they could report on a couple of requests that have been made recently. The first request being switch in the agenda order from call to the public with commission reports. And the second request was moving track safety to a regular agenda item versus it being just an information report.
We can take that under advisement. I'll work with the department and see what we can do to make sure that it is copacetic with the legal standard.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll open it up to call to the public. I do not have anyone who is requested to speak. Don't have any hands raised. So we'll move down to the next regularly scheduled commission meeting will be at 10 a.m. on Thursday, October 13th, likely via Google Meet and subject to a quorum.
Apologies, did I miss a motion?
You did not. I came off of mute. Otherwise, I will hear a motion for adjournment.
Commissioner, Chairman and Commissioners, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner French-Contreras and a second by Commissioner York. I will call the roll. Commissioner French-Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
and Chair Coolidge.
Yes.
Thank you. The time is 11 a.m. and this meeting is adjourned.